Top of the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. I will share my screen. Danny, just let me make sure you can see the screen there. Let me know
Yep,
when you can.
I
Cool.
see it.
Good. Okay. First off, I was talking. I wanted to tell everybody who's on the webinar, whether it's live or recorded here, that Danny Inney is my guest. And Danny, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are, so I don't screw up the introduction.
Sure, no problem. Well, the short answer is that I blog at Firepole Marketing. I'm a marketer, I'm a blogger, I'm a writer. I'm the co-author of a book called Engagement from Scratch, which you can get on Amazon. It's got like 75-star reviews, or you can just go to engagementfromscratch.com and download the whole thing for free. I do lots of other cool things, but go to Firepole Marketing, go to Engagement from Scratch, grab my book, and that's from there you can find other really great stuff that I offer for free as well.
Super. Well, Danny, first question is Engagement from Scratch. When I looked at that site and looked at the book, it looks to me to be one of these compilation books. Would that be accurate?
That's absolutely accurate. Well, or rather, let me say this. It's accurate that it's a compilation book. It's not accurate that it's one of these compilation books, because I know what you mean by that, and I feel the same way about these compilation books, and it's not one of those.
Good. Yeah. Well, as you might guess, I've had a lot of experience. I've got a seminar that I do every year called that I have at publishingseminar.com, and I do it before the Book Expo every year. And one of the things is that a typical compilation book, it has got sort of a negative perception. How is this one different, and why would you say it's not your typical one?
Well, it's different, first of all, because I hate compilation books. When I launched the book, the blog post that I used to kind of launch it on ProBlogger was called Why I Wrote the Kind of Book That I Hate. So if you Google that, you'll find it. But like there's a ton of stuff that's been written about it. And so when I set out to write this book, I had started to build my audience. Firepole Marketing was starting to take off. And I'm a teacher in my personality. So I saw, I was doing something right. I want to teach to other people. Then I looked around at what was happening in the marketplace, and I saw a lot of people who were very successfully building audiences, building engagement, except that they were doing it very differently from the way I did it. They were doing it in some cases in a way that's almost the polar opposite. But they were getting results, so clearly they're not wrong, and I was getting results, so clearly I'm not wrong. And so I realized that it's really not a one path up the mountain kind of area. And the only way I could do it justice was to get a lot of people to weigh in. And I have to admit, when I first set out to write this, I reached out to all these really amazing people. And what I kind of thought was, I'd get each one, I'd ask them the same question, which is very open. If you had to start building an audience from scratch, what would you do? And I figured each one would kind of speak to their area of expertise around my vision for how it would all come together. And they all really surprised me. I got answers that were across the board, a lot of stuff I wasn't at all expecting, some really, really amazing stuff. And I think that because I'm so averse to compilation works, the stuff I like to read is like Clay Shirky and Malcolm Gladwell. I like when someone goes into like a lot of detail and a lot of depth. And so that's really what I like more and what I appreciate more. And because of that, I pushed back with my co-authors quite a bit, asking for revisions and asking for more meat. And that's been the feedback from a lot of the people who've read the book, that like this is not your standard compilation work. There's just so much more meat to it. And if you look it up on Amazon, you'll see the feedback that you get there from people. It's not at all what you'd expect for some standard compilation work.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I only noticed this recently, but since I published it at the end of November, it's been consistently one of the top 20 best-selling marketing books on Kindle.
Nice.
Which is ironic, because it's not primarily even a marketing book.
Got it. So here, this is it, right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, so let's just take a quick look here. So yeah, now here's my question for you. How difficult, obviously, now some of these names I've got to confess I have never heard before, but obviously a couple of them I know the names very well. How difficult was it to get Guy Kiyosaki and I guess what's his name, Brian Clark, to contribute?
So here's the thing. When I started out, first of all, there's a reason why you don't know all of these names, or multiple reasons even. One is that it's from a whole bunch of different industries. But these that I didn't only go after the top tier. Guy Kawasaki has 250,000 Twitter followers. I was interested in anyone who has built a successful audience. Whether it's like Guy Kawasaki, it's in the millions, or it's someone like Steve Scott or Stuart Mills, where it's just merely a few thousand. Having the ear of a few thousand people, being respected and listened to by a few thousand people, that's significant.
Yep.
And even though that's not enough to get noticed on a global scale necessarily. I did approach the top names first, and the biggest names are the ones who kind of paved the way to do all the rest. And it wasn't that hard in the sense that I just reached out and I did my best to make the pitch easy, and they agreed. But it was hard in the sense that the groundwork started much earlier. I mentioned one of Guy Kawasaki's books at the very beginning of 2011 in a guest post I wrote on Copyblogger. And he noticed that, and he reached out to me, and he sent me a review copy of his most recent book at the time, Enchantment. I wrote a review, I did a podcast with him, I did everything I could to promote his book, and so when I reached out and said, hey, I'm writing this book, I'd love for you to contribute, there was enough of a rapport that I was not some random Joe Schmo just asking for a favor. And likewise with Brian Clark. I had bought a lot of his training programs over the years because I think he's brilliant. And I had done a lot of writing for Copyblogger. I think I'd written like half a dozen posts on Copyblogger, many of which performed very, very well.
Step back a second.
Before I ever asked for anything.
Step back a second, Danny. How did you get to guest post on Copyblogger?
It's a good story. I was in John Morrow's guest blogging program. I've known John for quite a long time. He's a good friend at this point. He's a great guy. And I was in Myrtle Beach. I was down there for a mandate building a curriculum of business books for a client that wanted to create a kind of learning and development environment in their workplace where employees have this opportunity to build all their skills. And John shared with me in his program that one of the easiest ways to get into a big blog for the first time is through a list post. And so I just replied to that email and I said, well, John, listen, I've got this list of 30-something business books that are really great that not everybody knows about. What do you think of my turning it into a guest post on Copyblogger? And he said, sure, look, I can't make any promises, send me a draft. I wrote it up, I worked really hard, sent it over. He liked it, and Sonia Simone liked it, and they ran it.
Okay, wait, stop there. List post, they liked it.
A list post is a blog post where...
Let me finish the question. Let me finish the question.
Sorry?
The list post, I get the idea that it is some kind of a compilation of X number of items, in this case business books, but why is that so appealing to someone? I mean, and why did it take a long time to create and revise the article?
Because all things being equal, list posts tend to perform very well. They get a lot of traffic, a lot of comments, a lot of shares. And again, that's all things being equal, assuming it's a good list post. And creating a good list post where it's not just a quick list of 30 random ideas, but for every single one of those books, I wrote a paragraph explaining why it's a good fit, and it was well organized by category and thematically. And putting something like that together is a lot of work, so it's a high-value piece of content to offer to someone.
Got it. Makes sense, yeah. So in other words, by doing that, and so I assume that Brian's people or Brian himself read the post before it went up and said, yeah, this is good stuff, let's go with it.
Well, I think Brian's people read the post. I'm pretty sure Brian is the one who tweaked the headline, and they ran it. It got, I think, 200 and something comments. So it performed very well, and that gave me the opportunity to pitch them again, which I did, and I wrote another post that again performed very, very well. And once you've written for someone a few times, you've shown that you can create stuff their audience loves. First of all, they respect you, they trust you, and it's much easier to move forward with that relationship.
Now, before we get into some questions from some of my JV partners, by the way, thank you for being here. Some other people have joined us on the webinar. Danny, quickly reintroduce yourself again and tell people why you have the right to be talking about this topic today.
Sure. So my name is Danny Eny. I blog and I write at firepolemarketing.com. I published a book called Engagement from Scratch, which I co-authored with Brian Clark, Guy Kawasaki, Mitch Joel, lots of other really great people. And I do lots of other stuff, and just go to engagementfromscratch.com. You can download my whole book for free and learn more about what I do there.
Sounds good.
I have the right to talk about what I'm talking about. Personally, I think because you and I have connected, and for whatever reason you are sufficiently impressed with my work to give me this opportunity. How did I earn that? I think by being good at building engagement, by being good at marketing, all the things that I teach people how to do at Firepole Marketing and through my book and through a variety of different
And by
channels.
the way, I just read the horse's ass post, which I thought was really cool. I liked the concept, and I liked the way that you wrote about it. Why don't you tell people real quickly what that post is about, just briefly, and then tell them where to find it, because I think it was really well done.
Oh, for sure. So this is a post that went up on the blog today. Today is Wednesday, in case you're watching a replay. Today is Wednesday, July 11th. And the reason it went up today is that tomorrow, July 12th, is my
Happy
birthday. So this is kind of like my birthday post. Thank you. But I didn't want to post it on my birthday because I'm disconnecting on my birthday. And so I found this story, which maybe it's a bit long to read. It's a really entertaining story, so I won't read it out loud.
It's a great story. So everybody should go to the site firepolemarketing.com and read this story. But just sort of give us a brief synopsis. Now, you got this originally from your dad, right?
From my uncle. My uncle, but it's one of these email forwards, and I don't know if it's true. One of the commenters was like, you should have done a Google search and seen that it's not true, so which I think he missed the point. I mean, I made it clear. I don't know if it's true. I don't care. I just think it's a good story.
Agreed.
So maybe it's not true, whatever, but it's a plausible story. And that's the most important thing. And the fact that it's plausible means that it speaks to what we understand about how things work. And the core message there is that decisions that are made with the best of intentions, with the best insight and understanding at the time that they're made, a lot of things change over time and the decisions stick. And you get to a point where things are a certain way that doesn't make any sense anymore at all. And I was saying that as, it's my birthday, it's a good time to take a step back and look at, everything has changed so much for me over the last year, in my personal life, in my business, in all kinds of different things. Do all my plans and all my decisions still make sense in the context of the way reality is right now?
Just to tell people, in this last year, you got married, you went on your honeymoon, you published Engagement from scratch, you created Write Like Freddie, which, by the way, people who know me from high school call me Freddie, so I like that already. And why don't we tell people a little bit, what's Write Like Freddie about?
Sure. Well, so I started sharing that story of how I began to grow my audience by writing for Copyblogger. I saw that was working, and I did a lot of guest posting. So I wrote over 80 guest posts in 2011. I think I've got to be way past 100 actually. All very good posts, well-performing posts, and I write them quickly. I write, a 1,200, 1,400 word post usually takes me about 60 to 90 minutes. And I would get a lot of questions from people asking, well, how do you do it? And I saw there was a demand, so I built this training program teaching people how to basically write really great content quickly and put it in the right places to get them results that will help them grow.
But you and I hadn't even met each other, and you were already using me by name. How's that?
It's different Freddie. I can tell you the story how that came to be because it's funny. I didn't come up with that. Freddie, it's a spin on the Freddy Krueger character, which is particularly ironic because I've never seen any of the Freddy Krueger movies. But when I was doing all these guest posts, this guy, Eugene, started commenting on a lot of these posts, saying, wow, Danny, it's like you're Freddy Krueger. Wherever I turn, you're there. Just based on the ubiquity, and that's just, the name just kind of stuck.
Nice. Well, I'd keep it, by the way. I like that name. Let me do this at this point. Again, thanks everybody for being on the webinar. I'd like to, Avish, you're there, right?
I am here.
Avish is getting married in a couple weeks. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see him ride in on a horse because in an Indian wedding, that's what you do. But
That's right.
But Avish, Danny has now been talking for a little while about things. I'm sure you probably have some questions because I know you've done some guest blogging but want to do more of it.
I missed the first few minutes, so I don't have a question right now. Other than, do you have a system you follow to submit, track? Is one question. Do you have a calendar? Like this week I'm gonna submit to this guest blog. This week I'm gonna submit to this one. And the second thing is, how long do you wait? You know, because I've done some guest blogging and you submit it, and sometimes people are polite and get back to you whether they use it or not. Sometimes it hangs out in limbo. And I'm like, well, this I just want to know. I don't care if they use it or not. I just want to know so I can resubmit it somewhere else. So how long do you wait, or do you follow up with people and things like that?
Okay, good.
Let me answer your question from the end to the beginning. And before that, let me say congratulations on your upcoming wedding. And so my wife is actually Indian. We had a half Jewish, half Hindu wedding, so I know a little bit about what you've got coming. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, we decided to go with 2 complete full ceremonies on separate weekends, so as opposed to half and half. So we're a little crazy.
That's intense.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But so, in terms of how long I'll wait, I'll usually wait 7 to 10 days before I send a follow-up, and I'll wait another 7 to 10 days before basically saying, if I don't hear from you by the end of the week, I'm taking it elsewhere.
Okay.
But I very, very rarely have to send those emails. If you're doing the pitch properly, in a way that will grab their attention because you're offering something valuable, demonstrates that you can genuinely deliver on that value, people usually respond. And that's one of the things I teach my students is how to put together that email. And actually, Fred, we can call it up on the screen. If scroll up on that page to the popular posts. One of the most popular posts at the top is how I became the Freddy Krueger of blogging. Scroll down a little bit.
Here it is. 106 comments. Wow.
It performed pretty well. So scroll down and you'll find an email template. That's pretty much exactly the email template that I teach students how to use with some variations and some nuances.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So if you send an email like that, you do it well, and you've done your research, so you're pitching stuff they're going to like,
they usually respond pretty quickly. They usually accept it. Like I get my acceptance rate is around 90%.
Nice. And so
It's because I do my homework.
It's because I
here's
do my homework.
question, Danny. Frequently, people that are fairly successful are difficult to get in contact with. What contact information are you using? Are you using a standard contact form? Or how do you determine what's the best way? Which email address to use?
You do the best you can to find a good email, but you're not always going to find it. Do your research. See if you can find an email address to actually get to the person. But if you don't find it, just go through the contact form. Sometimes that's what you've got to do. And as you become more experienced in the space, you can reach out to other people and be like, "Do you have a Can you introduce me to such and such?"
Example here. So I think I'm a pretty good writer, if I do say so myself. I didn't start out as a good writer, which for those people who are on the webinar, by the way, I think that writing is something that can be learned, and surely I'm an example of that because I was a pretty crappy writer initially, and I've gotten to be, I think, fairly good. So my question is, if I then said to you, after you and I had a solid relationship and you trusted me and knew that what I had was good, I would come to you and say, hey, you know what, I'd really like to maybe write a guest blog for Copy Blogger. Who do I talk to? Would that be the way that I would do this?
That's a really good example.
So Copy Blogger is one of those blogs that at this point is very hard to get into. They don't accept unsolicited submissions anymore. You basically have to be one of their authors, or someone has to let you in. It's not like I hold the key to publish your stuff. All I could do is introduce you to the right person there who could take a look at your stuff.
I've
There's no
actually met
guarantee.
Brian Clark at an event, and I don't know if we corresponded back and forth via email or not, but I think he and I may have.
But the
thing is that it's a business that's grown large enough that Brian doesn't really manage the calendar anymore.
I'm sure.
And so,
if you have a good relationship with Brian, of course he can get you in. But if it was me, if you were asking me to get you in, and I wouldn't bother Brian with that, I would go to probably Robert Bruce. I would say, why don't you write up for me either a draft, like go ahead, write the whole draft, or write up a kind of a synopsis of what is the post you want to write for them. And for Copy Blogger, I'd probably say write up the whole draft, and I'd want to see it and kind of vet it and know that this is a post that I think will perform very well for them, so that when I go to Robert and I say, look, I've read the post and I think it would be really good for Copy Blogger readers, I think you should take a look at it.
Okay, so now let me then...
But you'd need, for a blog like Copy Blogger, where the relationship is so valuable, you'd need to first of all have someone who's willing to go to bat for you a little bit, and you've got to give them something that kind of justifies that faith in you.
I completely understand. Now, Avish, I've got Greg Fellows sitting next to me. Greg is a JV partner of mine in 2 ventures. And one of them is, and I've been playing a lot of poker recently, and so our joint venture is a poker site that we're going to be putting together for people who want to play cash games and make a couple $100 a day playing cash games in casinos. Now, he also has a vocal condition called spasmodic dysphonia. So if you hear Greg, it may be a bit difficult for you to understand him just because he has to speak sort of in a loud whisper at this point. It's an interesting condition. So here's my question. Let me just give you the main site for this particular condition, and now this is the site that we're putting together, Spasmodic Dysphonia Central. We abbreviate it SD, but this is the organization. And here's my question for you, Danny. So in a situation or in a case like Greg's, he's got a couple of YouTube posts. One of his original YouTube posts, which we can go to in a second, got 22,000 views. Because this condition afflicts, and again, Greg will correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around 50,000 people in the United States. There are two variations on this, and it looks like this is coming up slowly. Huh. Wow, spasmodic. Isn't there a .com? Huh. That's crazy. I thought there was a .com. Let's try the .org.
We'll try it.org. We'll try it.org.
It's okay. So here's now this is the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association, and so our goal would be, I have a buddy of mine who owns a site and runs a site called Bipolar Central, which has got close to 500,000 opt-ins. My buddy David Oliver, and so David was nice enough to basically let us copy whatever we wanted of what he's done, and he's built a big following. So my goal for Greg, or our goal as a team here, is to try and build a huge list of people around the world, particularly English speakers, who have this condition. So knowing what little you do about it right now, what would you tell Greg some of the steps would be are?
That's a very challenging question because this is not a blog that would accept guest posts. I don't think. Maybe they have a newsletter or something like that, but you're not going to very easily be able to just get to them cold and say, hey, you don't know me, but I've got this site about spasmodic dysphonia, and I'd like you to publish my article or something. What you would probably want to do is figure out what is some baseline level of credibility that you would need in order to go to them. Whether that is you need an MD to put a stamp on the plan that you're putting together, or you want some endorsement from whether it's a book, whether it's a celebrity, whether it is being published on some health and wellness blogs. These are all possible ways to go about it, but the key is that when you approach the Spasmodic Dysphonia Association, you can come to them credible enough that they would say, okay, you know what, I'm going to listen to what this person has to say. And what you go to them with is not, I want something from you. It's, I've got this article that I've written that I think would be really valuable to your readers, and I'd like to share it with a wider audience than I have access to.
Let me give you a little bit more insight.
Yeah.
Greg has been sort of working with and hanging out with a guy who's a very successful Hollywood producer who's also in the World Series of Poker and moving along to his second day today here in Vegas. And so he's produced and starred and written a few movies that are not well known but have done quite well theatrically and in the movie space. So given that, do you have any ideas? I mean, and I think that he might be willing, because Greg knows him fairly well, has known him for a while, he may be able to help Greg in that way. Can you see any angle there?
Assuming we're talking about content, we're talking about creating content that we want to give the association, that the association can then push out to its members, because they're the ones that have the list of people you want to reach. Let's say that your friend's friend is, I don't know, George Clooney.
Not quite, but
Well, no, but whoever, just so we have a name. Okay, so it's George Clooney or Mr. X or whatever.
Yeah, Mars Callahan is his name.
Okay. let's say it's Mars Callahan.
So your friend Greg is going to have a conversation with Mars and say, I'd like to feature you in this article, and I'd like to leverage your name a little bit to get some attention. How would you feel about whether it's doing an interview in print or some article, some kind of way of tying him into the content? So it might be something like, an insightful conversation with Mars Callahan about spasmodic dysphonia.
Got it. And the other thing is that, Greg himself, and again, I'm speaking for him as he's sitting here, was fairly successful in the acting space until this condition started to come on. And in fact, it might be good to go to YouTube and sort of show. I think other people may have seen this who've been on the webinars before. But let me just show you something to give you a little bit of an insight here. So if we go to spasmodic,
you could just type Greg.
okay, just Greg. SD here.
That's,
oh, is that not?
That's the different. Actually, scroll down.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. I think that, no?
Just
put in spasmodic. Okay, hold on one second here. Okay. So this is okay. So this was when he had gone to a doc. So 23,000 people viewed this.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Whoops. It's just buffering here, I think. Okay.
refresh it.
Let me refresh. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Pardon us for the technical difficulties. Okay, let me try one more time here.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Fellows. And it is serious talk time right now. A lot of people lately have
Greg was just asking me if his voice has gotten worse. I think it's more sort of consistent now, but I think then you may have been sort of struggling with it. So, but here's the interesting thing. This has gotten 23,000 views, which for a condition like this, it seems like it's pretty high. What do you think, Danny?
I think it is pretty high. If you're saying that I think it is pretty high. If you're saying that 25 to 50,000 people are suffering from this condition, recognize that close friends, family are all people who might be searching for it. So let's say you multiply the size of the audience who might be interested in this information by, let's say, 5, you're still looking at about 250,000 people. That means you're looking at kind of a 10% market saturation. So it's a very kind of rule of very back of the napkin kind of math, but it's like a significant amount of interest has arrived at this video. And so that is something you can leverage.
And so I guess for Greg, the question would be, other than going through Mars and to try and do what you just suggested, and again, if we were to get Mars to agree to let us do an interview with him where we can sort of use his name, et cetera, et cetera. And again, our goal here is to, and just to not, I'll give David due credit here as well. David runs this site, which is Bipolar Central. He's going to be redesigning this, but I told him why it's working, but he's going to be, so he's got, again, close to, I think somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 people that are opted into his site, and he has tons of stuff that he can sell you on this topic. So we are going to basically take Bipolar Central, and therefore I came up with the very creative name Spasmodic Dysphonia Central as the name of our site for this particular field that we're going to be doing. So what I'm trying to get, Danny, from you is comments on other ways that we could effectively build a list other than the Mars connection that you can see and maybe the association itself going to them after we have an article. Any other ideas?
Well, I don't know very much about the condition. Well, I don't know very much about the condition, but I guess the question I would ask is, people who want, that 250,000 people that we just kind of ballparked, where might they be looking for information?
Okay, where they be looking?
And we can make some guesses, right? Maybe we can make some guesses, right? Maybe they're on Google.
which might suggest that you might want to do SEO kind of stuff, or maybe YouTube videos, because you've seen that that works well, and YouTube gets ranked on Google a lot more easily than other stuff does right now. Maybe you want to look at AdWords. Maybe this is a condition that there aren't a lot of things for sale with relation to, so you can get access to those keywords very inexpensive. Maybe not. I mean, but it's worth exploring. Where else might people be going? Maybe you want to be trying to do some kind of an advertising thing on sites like WebMD or FamilyDoctor.org, whether it's through an ad distribution network like AdSense or the Google Display Network or something else. You've got to think about where are these people going right now for information.
Yeah,
and how can you get in front of them in those places?
Makes a lot of sense. Avish, do you have anything to add?
I don't right now.
A man of few words.
That's me.
So
That's
yeah,
me.
I think this is all good stuff, because one of the things that I just interviewed a guy, and I'm going to be putting up this site that we put together. He's a traffic expert guy, free traffic, and one of the things that he told me, which I thought was fascinating, is that effective blog posts, unbeknownst to me, I thought they should be somewhere between 300 and 500 words, are actually, it's better to have shorter posts between 150, 200 words and a lot more of them, and he's proven this. And so I was wondering if you could see, now Greg isn't real confident at this point in his writing. He doesn't feel as comfortable writing because, I mean, if you think about it, he grew up as an actor, so he was more of a speaking kind of guy. And so what other things do you think he could do other than what we've talked about? Any other things that he should be thinking about, Danny?
Let's go back to the length of article issue that you were talking about. You're saying 150, 200 words is proven to work better based on what? Like, what is the metric for success here?
I've got tons and tons of data in terms of getting SEO rankings. In terms of, this is actually a product that I've just finished. I'll be happy to send you a copy of. But it is, this guy he's nailed it with like 1 million visitors with some of this philosophy. But it's not for the purpose, again, there are two different types of articles. One is for the purpose of getting SEO rankings. The other is for the purpose of gaining credibility, readership, and authority. So the short articles are definitely not for that purpose. But they are for the purpose of gaining SEO. And this guy's got like 14 years and tons of documented examples and proof. So it's interesting.
It kind of makes sense if you think about it. Google's looking for authoritative sites. All things being equal, authoritative sites tend to be very voluminous in terms of their quantity, right? I mean, Wikipedia has a bazillion pages. And so by just adding a lot of pages, you kind of get Google to associate you with these more quote-unquote serious sites over time. 1024 characters is the minimum length that the post should be. And again, this was surprising information to me. And when he first starts, he showed us some charts. Greg was actually sitting in on this while I interviewed him for about 3-4 hours. And so we put together this whole package of 25 videos. And then what I did, and Danny, I'll be happy to show you this, share with you this as well. I took, and Avish, maybe you can comment on this. I took Avish's site, Bill DeWeese's site, which is voice-over-training.org, and my site, fredgleeck.com, to use as examples for him to sort of beat up on. And Avish, you might be able to comment on what did you find interesting, unusual about some of the things that Bill said that you would not have expected about speakingexpert.com?
Good question. I'll admit there was about a week ago that I watched the video, so I do remember. Let's see, there was general SEO stuff about the headlines, which I would expect.
Let me bring it up so maybe this might sort of tweak your memory here. So I remember he said that, what was it that he said? This needs to be shorter in terms of the home page, I think. Did he say that? Yeah. Greg is remembering some of this stuff as well. And I think, but he gave a lot of comments that I wasn't expecting. Greg has another one there. Oh yeah, speaking expert. The sort of the tagline underneath it, showing speakers at any level how to speak better, have make more money, have more fun. He wanted that shorter, 10 words or less.
Yeah, he wanted that shorter. He was talking just in general. Yeah, he wanted that shorter. He was talking just in general about not repeating words and shortening things like in the various categories and stuff. So each one being just one keyword instead of repeating the keywords.
So Danny, I'll be happy to send you that. But that's one of those things that, again, some of the information that he gave me in that putting that product together, which I'm going to launch shortly, was frankly kind of shocking to me. I mean, I was not expecting some of the answers that I got. But it was pretty insightful. I guess that rather than I'd rather sort of just gain some more knowledge from your expertise rather than talk about that for right now. Though, tell me again, if Greg were your client or Avish, let's say you want to switch to Avish, what can you tell Avish about the speaking market?
Well, Avish would be, I think, a lot easier because it's a much less narrow kind of space. Anyone who is a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur would kind of see themselves going in that direction, whether as a career or whether as a way of growing their existing business, which means that there's a large audience that you can reach, and they're already well aggregated. There are a lot of sites that cater to people who are interested in growing their business, interested in marketing, interested in probably the personal development space might work to a certain extent. There are a lot of these well-organized large sites that have large audiences that could all potentially be interested in what Avish has to say. And in that case, I'd say guest posting is a really great, easy way to go. You write really great content, you put it on these sites, and thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people will see them and follow you back to the site. You just need a good landing page basically to give them a reason to trust you with their name and email address.
I would presume, since you're using this as an example and have brought it up now, and this is the thing, has guest posting been one of your most successful methods of marketing yourself and your services?
It has. It hasn't been. It hasn't been the only method. I mean, and it's important to stress. I don't believe in magic bullets. Depending on where you are in the growth of your audience and the growth of your business, different strategies will make sense. And guest posting is not something that I would recommend if you're kind of past a certain scale of growth, because the results that you can get from guest posting are quite linear. But if you're getting started, if you want to kind of build your first few thousand subscribers, it's probably the best way to go, as long as you're targeting an audience that is well aggregated by existing major blogs.
So then,
if I may ask a question for the speaking market, then when you talk about the aggregated audience and the different groups that might be interested, do you think it's better to go? Because originally this blog was designed for people who want to be professional speakers, so they want to get paid for their speaking. Do you think it's better to find sites to guest post on that really directly go for people who want to do professional speaking, or is it better to find some of those related fields and write articles for them, kind of opening up to them how they could use speaking as an additional revenue stream?
Actually, the answer is neither. I wouldn't say go after blogs that are just for professional speakers, because there probably aren't very many of them, and if there are, they aren't very big. And I wouldn't say go to related sites. What I would say is go to broader sites. So there are going to be sites that are specifically about, whether it's speaking, whether it is coaching, whether it is consulting. There are also sites that are just broader about, how to market your business using social media, how to gain more customers, how to improve your business. These kind of very generic business development categories. Now, a subset of the readers of all of these very large blogs are people who would be interested in what you have to say. And so you want to find the area of overlap between what those blogs are about and what you have to offer. Find that insight that you can offer that the readers of that blog would be interested in. And that's your kind of segue to introduce them to you.
Avish, I'm sorry, follow up. I don't mean to interrupt.
That was really.
Okay, so then, to get more specific then, Avish, you may want to contact then some of the, again, more sort of general business development sites, and using the system and the email that Danny showed us earlier on his site, use that to try and get in there because, again, you know, you're an Ivy League guy. You know, you've gained some respect by virtue of that.
And so do you generally, when you were guest posting, I saw your email template, you generally first send the topic over without writing the article?
Absolutely. I don't recommend sending the entire article, with rare exceptions when some blogs, that's what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bunch of reasons. First of all, the blogger is probably getting pitched a lot of content, and a lot of what they're pitched is by SEO companies who are pitching garbage. And so what you learn to do out of necessity is kind of ignore or discount all these guest post submissions. And so you need to demonstrate really quickly that your stuff is good, your stuff is different. And so the template that I create is designed to show exactly the right things. So you propose a headline. And it's got to be a headline that you're confident is going to work well on the blog. Successful bloggers are very well attuned to what their audience will respond well to, whether they like your idea or not. If you pitch a headline that will resonate well with the audience, that tells them you're a good writer.
If you then pitch an angle, you say,
this is the angle I'm thinking about. These are a few proposed headlines. I really think it would do well on your blog. Maybe they'll say, you know, we just ran something like this a week ago, or it doesn't fit because of this or that strategic reason. There could be all kinds of things. But what you'll find is that if you send the post, they'll just say, sorry, not a fit. If you send the idea and it's well thought out, it's a good fit, it doesn't fit for whatever reason, you submit a good headline, they'll say, well, this isn't right for us, but feel free to suggest something else.
Or it might not work, but
if you tweak it like this or like that, it could work better.
And at that point, you're in.
You know, if they say send me a draft, which is what they'll usually do, it's also a much lower commitment to say, would you like me to send you a draft than it is to say, will you publish my post?
If they pitch a good idea,
You know, so if they pitch a good idea, you know, they don't want to lose out on a good post. They'll say, sure, send me a draft, but I can't make any promises. But if you go to the trouble of writing a draft, sending it to them, you've been prompt, you're on the ball, you've demonstrated to them that you're professional by doing that quickly.
And the post is good, they're going to feel like
they're going to feel like an asshole if they don't run it.
Yeah. And that's an effective way to get people to do anything. Make them feel like assholes. It's that old intimidation technique. So, again, great information on that, I think, for everybody. Now, you know what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, Danny, is I'm going to open it up to the rest of the people on the webinar, because frequently they have ideas running around in their heads that I may not have thought of, as brilliant as I may think I am. So if anyone has got a question, please put it in your question box right now. I'll be happy to push it by Danny and let him see. So now's your time to get in on the action here. So write a question that you might have related, obviously, to anything having to do with the online marketing that Danny might be able to help us with. So please enter your questions now. And let's see if we can, usually this group is pretty good at, once they get started at asking some questions. So, but this time apparently not. Now there's one, here we go. David is asking, what about HubSpot or Squidoo? Is guest posting there an option? If not, why not?
I'm not very familiar with either of them.
So take my advice with a grain of salt.
My understanding is that
basically they are large aggregator sites. They're kind of a platform that you can use to create your own, whether, you know, on Squidoo it's called a lens and so forth. HubSpot is a bit of a different animal, actually. HubSpot is more like a CMS. Think of HubSpot as an alternative to WordPress, and Squidoo.
It's its own thing, but
they're kind of places where you can build your own content. So you could create your own site there, basically, your own blog, your own lens, your own whatever you want to call it, and use that to link. But if nobody knows about the blog, it's just like creating a WordPress blog.
Yeah.
That nobody's reading. You've got to put your content where people actually are.
Good. Okay. And so David follows up with, what about the Huffington Post? I guess if you have something that's relevant to them, that's a huge.
If they'll run it, then that's great.
Yeah, if they'll run it, then that's great. It builds credibility. They get tons of traffic. It's great if you can get on there.
I would think, David, that if you've got something that is, you know, obviously more political in nature, although I know they have lots of other different topics, but that seems to be their primary target, don't you think, Danny? For Huffington Post. Yeah. Okay. Good. Other questions? Anyone else have anything else here? Avish, any follow-ups?
No, this is great.
I tell you, this.
This is great.
this summer season, I think that we may be letting you off pretty easy, Danny, because I don't see any other questions. I've pretty much exhausted.
Easy solution to that. Just ask me back in September.
I'd be happy to. Hey, no, I would. I'd love to have you back when we have more of the folks on. In fact, one of my buddies, Bill DeWeese, was unhappy to have missed this, but he had a recording session. He's actually one of those people who talks about and creates information products because he's actually doing what he says he's doing. God forbid. As we all know, there are many people who don't do that. So anyway, I won't get on my high horse about that. So everyone, Danny, I want to thank you very much for being here and being my guest.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Avish,
thank you very much for having me.
And Greg sitting next to me, thank you for being here. And everybody for being on the webinar. Please tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone about it every Wednesday, same time, same